What is the best psychological trick you know? If you want to walk through a crowd quickly, just stare straight ahead and don't falter or look at the floor. People will go out of their way to avoid you. Or if you're in the UK, just carry 2 pints with you at all times. People will always move for you if they think you've got a pint for your mate. If you act really excited every time you see someone, they will eventually start to get really excited every time they see you without realizing why. Pretty sure my dogs do this already. When working on group projects, if you want someone else in the group to do something, instead of saying can you do this, simply say can you start on this. This makes it sound like less work and they will be more willing to do it. Halfway through, tell them good job, keep going and they'll probably finish it. Very useful for lab reports. I can get an auditorium full of high school or university students to almost immediately quiet down without uttering a word. I just start mouthing like I'm talking and gesturing without making a sound. It has never failed to bring 500 plus people to absolute silence within 30 seconds as everyone tries to figure out what I'm doing. When you can hear a pin drop, I cease my antics, pick up the mic, say thanks, and get on with the meeting, ceremony, presentation, etc. Simple positive reinforcement works wonders, and I see people ignore it all the time. If somebody does something you like, find a way to reward it. I don't mean give them something, just say something nice, touch them lightly, smile at them, whatever. Most of you probably think this is obvious and natural, but I see people all the time neglect to show any sort of appreciation for favors and the like. There's a reason you were taught to say thank you, people. I worked in fast food. My manager told me to always ask if they wanted a shake instead of a soda for $1 more or something. But he said always nod yes when you are asking. It was crazy how it actually worked. I would go a day without nodding and then a day with. People fall for the suggestion of it also. Now I always nod yes when I suggest things I want. When I worked at KFC we had a malfunction that caused us to fall short on original recipe and it was going to be an hour until we could make more, so we were on a slim supply. The guys at the window got virtually everyone to order extra crispy just by asking if they wanted extra crispy. People would virtually always say yes. Not sure if this counts as a psychological trick, but have you ever been going about your day and then suddenly had that horrible thought cross your mind? Did I remember to turn the stove off? Did I lock my front door? Did I close my garage? Of course you have. For me it's closing the garage door. I've come home on more than one occasion to find my garage wide open, all of my possessions available for someone to just walk up to and take. Thankfully I was never robbed. Then I read about this technique called pointing and calling that Japanese train station workers use to reduce the number of errors they make. It involves pointing to the thing you are checking and saying something out loud. So when I back out of the garage I press the button on the remote, watch it close completely, then I point to it and say garage closed. This does 2 things. It helps solidify the memory of watching the garage door close, so I won't have to remember later on if I remembered to close it. I've heard of some people even taking pictures of the door closed, so that they can look at their phone later and verify that they did it. Pointing and calling is sufficient for me. Secondly, it helps in that very moment by making you double check, pointing, and triple check, calling, so that you won't make a mistake in the first place. I've been having this problem a lot lately. Will definitely try. One I use all the time in meetings to get my own way is to say, well, I really like, insert highest ranking person in the room here, idea, that we should do, my idea. It just makes the most sense. Half the people will immediately agree with you because they're afraid of criticizing the boss's idea, and I've yet to meet a manager who won't take credit for an idea everyone likes. Best used sparingly towards the end of long meetings. Did it help you reach higher ranking jobs over time? The puppeteer game. If you're in someone's view, but they aren't looking at you, start copying their movements. After a few minutes, you can then initiate movements and they'll copy you. Cross or uncross legs, play with hair, etc. I used to do this all the time in school and it would aggravate most people for whatever reason. Whenever I feel like someone doesn't like me in the office, I will always ask them questions that I already know the answers to. They will explain them to me and I'll say thanks and smile. It's not much, but I swear they change how they feel about me. What if they dislike you because you keep asking them questions? Say something positive and as agreeable as possible to those trying to draw you into a confrontation or argument. It drives them crazy when you don't take the bait. I call this malicious politeness. The angrier someone gets, the more upbeat and polite I become. Working with kids, if I can't get them to do something, I'll give them the choice to do it themselves or have me help them. Either way the task gets done without them realizing I still got them to do what I wanted them to. When me and my friends are going back and forth roasting each other, I always say frick outta here with them crusty butt lips. They always reflexively lick their lips. To me it's the funniest thing because they do it regardless of the condition of their lips. Gah, I just licked my lips from reading this. Smile when you walk around the office yard, whatever. People either think you are some kind of maniac and leave you alone. Good. Or they smile back and make your day. Also, I don't know if that's true, but I heard that if you smile your brain sets different hormones free that make you feel better. I definitely feel better just smiling walking around. If it's placebo, I don't care. My best example is how I met my boss when he just came out of a meeting which must have went horribly. He was really angry. I just stood my ground and kept smiling while simply greeting him. He loosened up visibly and greeted me back without a single bit of anger in his voice. I guess after having to deal with tougher shats for hours on end, he was glad to see someone that doesn't want to take it out on him and was just being genuinely friendly. After all, your boss is just a human being, too. I digress, but once I have realized and accepted that, it stopped being scary talking to superiors. The power of silence in conversation. Get comfortable with pauses in conversation and try to let the other person struggle to come up with ways to fill the void. It throws most people off their game and puts you in charge of the conversation. An old lawyer trick, very useful in depositions. Just ask a question and people feel the need to keep going. Maybe throw in a nod every now and again, but otherwise let them talk. I don't know if this is really psychological, but it's interesting. If you ever see someone check their watch phone for the time, wait a few seconds and ask them what time it is. 9 times out of 10 they will check again. Sometimes I check my phone for the time and I don't even look at it, so I have to check it again. Confidently showing someone something. You can get through many ticket barriers by just showing an old or wrong ticket with a smile. Or a $100 bill. Saying but you're free to refuse tends to get the result you want when asking someone to do something. I actually saw this here on Reddit months ago and tried it during my work days. I certainly got what I wanted because of it. If in a situation where you are trying to get someone to like you as a person, such as an interview, date, etc., mimic their body language. For example, they have one hand in their lap and the other hand is under their chin with their head resting on it, with their legs crossed. You may sit the same way they are positioned. It subliminally causes them to like you better. Note, this will not work unless you are also making good conversation with them and appearing to be genuinely interested in what they have to say to you. Simply asking questions when you want someone to like you. People love to talk about themselves. Getting someone to do you a small favor makes them like you more. I dunno, if someone made me do one small favor for them, I would probably resent that person for a while. When meeting someone new, when you first make eye contact, quickly raise your eyebrows and let your face fall back to a relaxed smile. It kicks their subconscious into the idea that they already know you and can trust you. It takes a bit of practice though, as timing is the difference between genuine and creepy body language. If you want an answer to something, make an incorrect statement about it rather than asking a question. People love to correct inaccuracies. The classic "oh, I've heard that before, it must be right," when they don't remember they had heard it from the same person. I usually only use this on those pesky types of people. If they ask me to do something I don't want to do, I just say number or sorry, I can't, and just leave it at that, instead of launching into a big explanation of why I can't do that. If you explain, they have a tendency to try to convince you to still do it, because oftentimes explanations make it seem like it's open to debate. But a good sorry, I can't, just leaves it at that, and doesn't give much leeway for negotiation. Plus, usually most people expect an explanation, so it throws them off balance when you don't give them one. I read this in an old magazine once, and gave it a try. Seems to work. Of course use sense. It's more for the jerk that wants to borrow $50 when they never paid back the $20 they owe you from before, but not a good thing to use if your boss asks you to do a project or something. I learned this in Spain because the city I was living in at the time had a lot of people doing this. When you are walking and someone is coming towards you, just look the other way. Most of the time the other person will move instinctually. I have tried this in crowds and it usually works unless the other person is not paying attention. When playing rock, paper, scissors, ask the person what color shirt they are wearing right before you play. Most of the time they'll choose scissors subconsciously. Alternatively, throw paper if someone asks you what color shirt you're wearing. If you're trying to go through a crowd of people and nobody's moving, start dry heaving like you are about to throw up. Everyone will walk away from you. This worked really well in germophobic Singapore, especially on the train. Just pretend to sneeze and you suddenly get plenty of space. If someone is being a crap to you, tell them they have something in their teeth. They'll obsess about it, at least for a minute, and you have the upper hand again. Normally that's a good way to gain trust. If you're the only person telling them that they got something in their teeth, then they will notice that and take favor, and may even wed you. When someone does me a favor at work, I thank them, and note the extra effort in an email, and copy their boss. Now when something goes sideways, it's easy to get the extra help from people because they know the effort will be appreciated and noted. So easy, so often not done. When you want people to behave certain way with you, just praise them when they do it. Let's say Larry just got you a fork because he noticed you needed one even though you didn't ask. Then you say something like, "Thanks Larry, you're very considerate." Larry will try to be more considerate when you're around him. I've tried this and it works most of the time. I recently discovered and started applying the 5-second rule. It's a beta psychology trick that short circuits the wave of emotional logic that will follow the decision to do something you don't really want to do. For example, I need to work out tonight but instead I am having some Ben & Jerry's. Now that I have identified that I'm not doing what will ultimately make me happier, I can count backwards from 5 and short circuit the excuses to get up physically and move in a direction towards my goal. There is a great segment on TED Talks by Mel Robbins about using this trick to stop sleeping and by hitting the snooze button. Didn't work. I'm still on Reddit. If I want to see if someone I'm interested in is staring at me when I'm not looking, I'll yawn and then check to see if they do too. Frick, I just yawned. Asking "would you kindly" after every suggestion. Never ask yes or no questions if you're trying to get someone to do something. For work, if I need to schedule a meeting with a client, I never ask, "Do you want to meet on Tuesday?" It's always, "I have time on Tuesday at 10 AM or 1 PM. What works better for you?" This can work for your kids too if you're trying to get them to do chores. Do you want to take the garbage out or clean the living room? Never do you want to take the garbage out. There's something about giving them the power to choose that works. I force myself not to cross my arms or legs when I start to feel nervous. I always try to use open and confident body language to feel more confident. Crossing my arms kinda makes me feel more confident at times. I make the arms look bigger, raise the chest, and keep my chin slightly up. Might be a little bit of a douche. I take public notes in project meetings I attend or lead so that everyone can see what we've talked about. I also publicly write down summarized DOS for the next meeting and write names next to them. For example, we talked about how we are going to handle X. Jeremy said he would follow up with John. When we start the next meeting, I copy this list to the new meeting agenda to talk about. Projects get done like they've never gotten done before. The psychological part is that public goal setting increases likelihood of goal completion, and in my case, even when the person doesn't really want to do the task. You've been visited by the all-seeing doggers. Good visions will come to you, but only if you comment "watch me puppers." If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.